Generally, of course, the Chinese ecosystem, so the infrastructure in physical terms, but also the infrastructure in terms of people, relations with local governments, all these things, generally all the reports we get are good. There's always better, but in general they are good. I think Hong Kong's traditional role as the place where the actual investment goes, I think that is still very much the case. I think that the advantages that Hong Kong has, so the English language skills here, the high number of professionals, the good banking system, the separate currency. In business circles, I think we still continue to have a very intense and positive relationship overall. All the companies that I know that are in China are happy with their engagement there. But again, of course, they also need to listen to their other stakeholders, their governments.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hack. Thank you very much for joining us today and nice to see you again.
Thank you.
My first question is that as an important window for the outside world, the 20th Central Committee of the CPC started its third plenary session in Beijing on Monday morning. So my question is, how do you evaluate China's opening up policy during these years?
Well, lovely to see you again. When we talk about opening up, I think if we are honest, we have to recognize that before opening up now, in some way, there was also a little bit closing down during the pandemic, so for understandable reasons, perhaps. So I think what we are seeing now, in some ways, is opening up, but a little bit on a reduced level. So I think there are two parts to opening up. One is travel, visiting the mainland. On that topic, I think we are very encouraged that the mainland Chinese government has done a lot of initiatives to encourage people to travel. I remember when we started, March 2023, difficult to get a visa, difficult to line up, very, very long process. So very quickly they changed that. Now it's visa-free for us and a lot of other nationalities. Then in the beginning we had problems with payments. Also that was addressed very quickly. So I think for actual travel, they have done a great deal to make sure that it becomes much, much easier. Now, recently, we have had the announcement here in Hong Kong that permanent residents can more easily go to the mainland. So opening up in terms of travel, I think very well done. Opening up, the broader opening up to the world, I think there is a little bit some mixed messaging from a Western perspective. We have seen that some things have become much more open again. We had concerns about data laws, about cross-border data exchange. I think some of these concerns are being addressed, maybe not all of them. But at the same time, there are also always things which make us think as business community, okay, in which direction is the pendulum swinging? So I think the opening up in business terms, we can see some parts of it. Other parts are maybe a little bit more mixed.
Since you have mentioned the business part, and I want to mention a data that is about the Germans' investment in China. We all know that nowadays the geopolitical condition is very complex and the global economy is under great pressure. But while in the first quarter of this year, according to the data that I know, the investment from Germany in China had increased by 48%. It's a great number. So in your opinion, what drives the foreign investors in China?
Okay. Well, I think that a lot of the German companies that are in China already continue to be very happy with their engagement in China. Generally, of course, the Chinese ecosystem, so the infrastructure in physical terms, but also the infrastructure in terms of people, relations with local governments, all these things, generally all the reports we get are good. There's always better, but in general they are good. So I think the ones that are there, they are reinvesting a lot, they are firming up their commitment to China, in China for China. New companies is a little bit more complicated. We have some instances where there are German companies that are now also putting part of their production into mainland China, which in the first instance is good for China. However, I think we also need to look at that and see, okay, you are building up a production capacity that you have in one place, once again in an additional place in China. So that also, of course, creates extra cost. And extra cost at the moment in this complex business environment is perhaps not ideal.
So do you think that Hong Kong is playing a very important role to the foreign investor like German counterparts?
Well, I think Hong Kong's traditional role as the place where the actual investment goes, I think that is still very much the case. I think that the advantages that Hong Kong has,
yes.
so the English language skills here, the high number of professionals, the good banking system, the separate currency, all these things which are usually referred to as one country, two systems. But I keep saying in Germany, actually, no one understands one country, two systems. You have to explain specifically what does it mean. So these things, separate currency, separate banking, these things I think for Hong Kong are still very important. At the same time, I think in some parts there is maybe a move of some companies to now go directly to the mainland, which again, from an all China perspective is fine. For Hong Kong, I think we need to find, again, a little bit a USP, a unique selling point for Hong Kong, even more to carry it beyond the traditional role of finance.
But nowadays, the Hong Kong's financial role, especially the international financial role, has been questioned recently. So what's your opinion? Has something changed?
I think the facts mostly have not changed. I mean, very clearly at the moment, some things, IPOs, initial public
yes.
offerings, listings on the stock exchange, they are going through a very difficult period. But if you look across the world, across the time zones, across timelines, there are always periods when IPO activity is down and then it comes yes. back up. So I think that is mostly cyclical. So most of the facts I don't think really have changed so much.
And we also want to know what are the expectations of German enterprises in Hong Kong in terms of the policy support or maybe the market cooperation. What are the most urgent needs?
Well, I think most companies, most German companies here are actually, by and large, they're really quite happy with Hong Kong as a place.
Happy.
I think they're quite happy. The key concerns I keep hearing really is special that people here continue to speak good English, that makes it
so
international.
They can communicate.
That you can communicate. I was recently on a trip to Hainan, great place, in some ways competing a little bit with Hong Kong. One very clear difference, in Hainan, the level of English is not the level of English you have here.
Of course.
So the business community, I think, continue to make sure that English is well spoken, that it is well taught, that this continues to be a place that markets itself as open, because that then attracts the second thing we truly need, which is talent. By and large, what is important, make sure that Hong Kong is seen as being open, as being cosmopolitan, and maybe also, honestly, a little bit more relaxed about itself.
Relaxed?
Yeah, you just feel confident that this is a good place. Everyone who comes here feels very happy.
Yes,
so
everyone is confident here.
Yeah, but sometimes you get the impression that at the moment people maybe have lost a little bit of that confidence. And so maybe it's good to just have that back and say, this is a great place. People like it here. It's a fun place. It's a good place. And focus on that and try to make that positive message spread out.
I see your point. And maybe we could talk some about the specific cooperation between these two countries, between China and Germany. We all know that Germany is a manufacturing powerhouse, while China now is accelerating the development of I don't know, have you heard the word 新质生产力, the new quality protective forces. Its key point is about the intelligent manufacturing. So how do you see the two countries cooperate about this part?
I think there the chances for cooperation really are very good. When you look at the mega trend of what influences China, but also Europe and particularly also Germany, looking 20 years ahead, there will be a lot more old people and there will be a lot fewer working people. So it's very clear that in 20 years, the workforce will be really different in China, it will be really different. Certain things, AI, but practical AI, for instance, coupled with robotics or with manufacturing. We have here in Hong Kong a very promising innovation center that studies together with a Hong Kong entity the chances for AI in manufacturing. So not AI in writing letters or in writing your report, but actual AI that helps, for instance, in manufacturing. And this is exactly the sort of thing where I think there is still a lot to be done. So things that Germany are good at, industrial automation, robotics, fusing that with AI, but of course maybe also taking it further so that you actually develop mechanical things that can help to feed elderly people, that can help to keep elderly people mobile. So I think there is huge potential there. Another area, life sciences, medical devices, again, very engineering focused, something where there will be massive demand in 10 years' time. I think though, however, also, quite frankly, in the direction of my own country, Germany probably also needs to rethink its strategy. I mean, we're traditionally exporting fantastic cars is great, but I think also we need to look, so what will be the next thing after exporting great cars? And probably these things are the ones.
Yes, we all need to rethink about this topic. And I've got my last question is about what are your expectations for China's further opening up? Because we all know that now the geopolitical situation is not that good. And including the global economy is not good. But how should we, the German and China, maintain the positive cooperative relationship? And like what consensus should we uphold?
Well, I think in business circles, I think we still continue to have a very intense and positive relationship overall. All the companies that I know that are in China are happy with their engagement there. But again, of course, they also need to listen to their other stakeholders, their governments. Their things become more complicated. For me personally, I've been to very many places in my life, and I have spoken with very many different people. And one thing that has struck me very much, two people can look at one object and they can see very different things. So you can look at something and I can look at something and we see something quite different. And it's important to remember that then when mainland China sees one thing, or when Germans see one thing, they may be seeing something very different. So they need to talk a lot to understand what the other person is seeing. And they need to be respectful of the other person's vision, which does not mean that they have to agree. But it's important to retain the dialogue. It's important that particularly in terms of training, of education, we get back where we have more interchange. At the moment, we have too little interchange. We need more German students in Hong Kong. We need more German students in the mainland. We need to re-establish more ties, to understand, again, maybe not always to agree, but at least to understand and to hear and to listen. I think that's the way forward.